Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello learners, I welcome you to the course of Introduction to FinTech. And in today's video lecture, we will be taking forward the concept of digital lending and will be understanding about digital lending products. I am Dr. Aparna Samudra from the Department of Economics, RTM Nagpur University, Nagpur, and I welcome you to these video lectures. Today's lecture objectives are to understand the key digital lending products as well as to understand that what are the features of these lending products. We have already understood that various digital lending models are there, direct as well as indirect co-lending. But when we talk about what are the methods or what are the ways in which digital lending can be done, we will be talking about 4 types of methods or models of digital or products of digital lending, to be very precise. So 4 digital lending products which we will be discussing are P2P lending, pay later loans, embedded lending and crowdfunding. Now, what are the typical features of these digital lending products? First, we will have a look at that, and then we will go to each one of them and discuss them. Now, these digital lending products can either be short-term or long-term. That is, they may be taken for short-term duration, small loans, or they may be for a longer-term duration, big loans. Now, when we talk about those digital lending products which are short-term or which are generally small value loans, for example, nano loans, the credit assessment of these digital lending loans is focused basically on the willingness to pay or the behavioral assessment of the borrower. Now, for such small ticket loans, what will be the data sources? The data sources for these products may be the mobile phone data, maybe with the alternative data that can assist the firms to assess the customer behavior, or if there is a credit bureau data. What is the penalty for non-payment of such loans? No further loans are provided to this borrower, and of course it may lead to blacklisting on the bureau. If we talk about the digital lending products which are longer term and larger value loans, unlike the smaller term, shorter term and smaller value loans, these loans may arise from the business side, which may be business working capital loans, mortgages, etc. Now, in such case loans, the credit assessment is focused on the capacity to pay instead of willingness to pay, which we saw in the short-term loans. In long terms and large value loans, the focus of the lender will be on whether the person who is asking for this loan has the capacity to pay. And in order to understand the capacity to pay, they may be asking for the proof of income and expenses and whether that organization, that business has sufficient cash flows or not. Now, because it is a digital loan, what data sources they have apart from the ones which are used in the traditional methods? It is the digital footprints of the customer's monthly income, cash flow and expenses. Now, to give you a very simple example, UPI is taken by most of the street vendors. Government of India has formed a scheme of PM Swanidhi, wherein the loans are given to the street vendors exclusively. So, these loans are given to them based on many a times their credit worthiness is checked by the inflows they are having through the UPI transactions, because these street vendors are operating totally in an informal sector. They do not have any GST registration. Neither they have any licenses as such of any small and medium enterprises. So what is the way in judging whether the loans have to be given or not? So the government has said that they will be given loans up to 10,000, 20,000, 50,000. Then how is it assessed? Many a times they are given an advantage if they are making the repayment also through UPI. So how much inflow has been there, it can be easily judged by the bank by seeing that how many UPI cash payments this street vendor has achieved. So similar can be the case with in digital lending also, that digital footprints of the customer's monthly income, cash flows and also expenses. That is how much expenses it is doing. For example, how many digital invoices it has paid, what have been their tax returns are used. In case the non-payment of loans is done, then loss of collateral, access to inventory is done, and also blacklisting by the bureaus is done. So these are the very typical features. Now we will go to the specific types of digital lending products. The first product that we are going to discuss is peer-to-peer lending, P2P lending as we call. In the digital payments, we had talked about P2P payments. Here we are talking about P2P lending. Now P2P lending is a financial innovation which connects verified borrowers seeking unsecured personal loans with lenders looking to earn higher returns on their lending. I will read this definition once again. It is a financial innovation. P2P lending is what? It is a financial innovation where what is happening? Where verified borrowers who are seeking what type of loans? Unsecured personal loans they are seeking. These verified borrowers are connected to whom? They are connected with those lenders which wish to earn higher returns on their lending. So, fintech is enabling the connection of borrowers and lenders. Borrowers who are seeking unsecured loans, whereas lenders who are seeking higher returns on their lending. So, a digital marketplace will connect these borrowers, which can be both individuals as well as organizations with such lenders, allowing quick access to low-cost loans at affordable cost. So, P2P lending becomes a method of debt financing without the use of any official financial institution as an intermediary. That is a very important innovation of this instrument, that is in P2P lending. The role of the intermediary, role in the traditional model, it is the banks which are taking the role of intermediary and connecting these lenders and buyers, and they are faceless. We don't know that if I have put money in my bank account, that bank account money, that deposit which I have made, to whom it has been lent. We are all faceless because bank is acting as an intermediary. But in digital lending, the platform connects these buyers, these lenders and borrowers, therefore eliminating the need of any financial institution as an intermediary. Now, how does P2P lending work? This is a very simplified model where you can understand that how borrowers, lenders and P2P provider, which is the fintech, is connecting with each other. So, this is a borrower. Borrower is getting connected through this P2P platform provider, which we are saying is a fintech. He is getting connected to a lender. So, lender wants money. Lender has money for which he is willing to have a higher rate of return. Borrower needs money, which is generally unsecured. This platform connects both of them. The loan is not given by P2P. The loan is given by the lender to the borrower. Then this borrower is not paying the interest and the principal amount through the P2P provider. Borrower is paying directly to the lender the interest payments as well as the principal amount. But what is this fintech or P2P provider getting in return? both the borrower and the lender are paying some fees to the P2P provider. So the revenue model for this P2P provider is the fees which both the lender and the borrower are giving. Now, if we see the journey, that how it all takes place, then the simplified model we understood that the P2P platform is bringing together the lender and the borrower, taking fees from both the parties, and lender is directly paying money, lending money to the borrower, and borrower is directly repaying the interest and the principal amount to the lender. But how does it start? It starts with an online application where the borrower submits a loan application. Platform evaluates this credit rating, that is, it does the risk assessment. Investor offer are there, that is, loan is offered based on the credit rating. Then comes the borrower's choice. Borrower selects the most suitable offer and then gives it to the borrower. Then the repayment is done by the borrower to the lender. So the role of deciding or evaluating that how far the person who is asking for the loan, what is his risk, that assessment is done through the P2P platform. Loan is offered, some credit rating is given to the borrower. Many such borrowers exist on the platform. The person who is going to invest will say that, who is going to lend will say that this is my, this is the rate of interest at which I am okay. Borrower also selects that offer for which he has to pay the lowest rate of interest, and then once the borrower takes the loan, the repayment is done. Now, what are the advantages and challenges of P2P model? The advantages are, of course, the higher rate of return to the investors because the role of the intermediary is removed. It is more a transparent system. Depending on the credit rating given to the borrower, I may be taking the risk and return scenario into consideration and then lending. More accessible source of funding because we are not limited by geography. We are not, because it is a platform, it is operating everywhere in the nation. So any lender, any borrower can get onboarded on that fintech app, and then it becomes a very accessible source of finance. Risk diversification is there because if someone is taking a loan or someone is lending, he may be lending depending on the credit worthiness which has already been fixed by the fintech app. And of course, it gives a greater choice to both the borrower and the lender, as we just saw in the previous slide, that how borrower then decides that which is the most suitable offer for him. So it gives a greater choice to the lender as well as the borrower. But there are certain challenges also which are associated with this P2P lending. One is, of course, the credit risk. The credit risk is assessed, but it's always the case that it's all human behavior. Sometimes systematic and unsystematic risk may take place. So there is always a credit risk. Liquidity risk in terms of getting the money back in time is also there. Platform risk. What happens in case the fintech does not perform or fintech shuts down? Then the risk of platform is also there. And then regulation. It has to be regulated properly. If regulatory framework is missing, if regulatory framework is not, in support of such lending, these P2P lending may not become very feasible. The second type of digital lending we have is called as pay later loans or buy now, pay later. In this scenario, lenders disburse instant small ticket size loan. Please take into consideration, we are talking about small ticket size loans. Whereas when we talked about P2P lending, we had said that loans can be either big or they may be small. But here, essentially, these are small size loans with the buy now and pay later model. That is, you can buy now and pay later. Therefore, it meets the customer's purchases. So, if a customer is making a purchase, instantly an offer is given to him or her that you can buy now and you can pay later. Therefore, it allows customers to purchase goods and pay later in installments, often without any interest. Now, these BNPL platforms operate outside the conventional lending framework. That is, you are not unlike a situation that if you want to buy a white good, a consumer durable good, you go to the bank and get it financed. In such case, it is all digital. Therefore, it is operating outside the conventional lending framework. Simple, Lazy Pay are those platforms which generally offer BNPL in India. Now, pay later loans, how does this model work? We will understand. This model involves assessing the customer's creditworthiness, approving the loan, and managing the repayment all through online or mobile platforms. Now, this leverages on the digital technology to provide a seamless and convenient borrowing experience, making it as a subset of the broader digital lending ecosystem. That is, digital technology is used to provide a seamless and convenient borrowing experience. Now, you may be getting confused that it is very similar to the credit cards which we used. But there is a difference between credit cards loans and the BNPL. And that is what we will now discuss. Now, BNPL is generally short-term installment loan and it is used for a single purchase. For example, on an e-commerce website, you buy some consumer durable, you buy an electronic product, and at the checkout, you are given an offer that you can purchase it now and pay it in installments. But that particular offer will only be limited for that particular product that you are buying. Whereas credit card involves a revolving line of credit that with a given credit limit during a particular time period, you can make any number of purchases of anything that you want to buy. So you get the difference, learners? In BNPL, we are talking about a small short-term installment loan used only for a single purchase. So if you're buying a laptop online through, let us say, an e-commerce website, and at checkout it is told to you that this you can buy now and you can pay later through installments, which are generally without any rate of interest. So that your amount of that laptop will be divided in equal installments. So that is BNPL. No credit card is required for that. Using fintechs like, let us say, we have said Simple or Lazy Pay, these fintechs allow you to buy that product online and then pay later. But when we talk about credit card, it is a card which is issued by a bank and it is you're giving a revolving line of credit. That is, in a given month, you can use that credit limit which is assigned to you for any number of goods wherever you want to purchase. Now, in BNPL, there is a small portion of upfront fee that is to be paid, which is called as a processing fees, and rest of the amount is paid in installments. Whereas in credit card, credit limit can be used for multiple purchases. BNPL is fixed, preset payment schedule. Whereas in credit card, flexible payments. In credit card repayment also, you can take installments. So credit card and BNPL are different from each other. Now let's see the journey of the BNPL model to make things clearer to you. It starts with customer making a purchase. Then customer signs up. If he has not logged in, he or she will log in. An instant eKYC and credit risk analysis is done. Approval and payment for that purchase is done. Product delivery is there. Repayment is scheduled and the customer starts making repayment. So if, for example, you have bought a laptop from an e-commerce website, you make it. You are offered that you can buy now and pay later. So that fintech will ask you to sign up on their this thing. You sign up with that fintech. They will ask you Aadhaar card and PAN and other details. Your credit risk analysis will be done. Approval of the loan will be done. Your product will be, product purchase will be approved and product will be delivered. And then repayment schedule which is fixed, it will start and customer will start making repayments. The third type of digital lending model that we have is embedded lending. Now, what is embedded lending? When a lending, for example, which is a financial service, is offered through a non-financial product or service, it is called as embedded learning. In one of the previous lectures, we have discussed about it, embedded learning. Here, we will again have a deeper look into it. So, when a lending, which is a financial service, is offered through non-financial product or service, for example, a retail or food delivery app, it is called as embedded lending. Embedded learning has disrupted the traditional lending models by embedding financial services into non-financial ecosystem. Embedding means we have put it into it. We have something embedded means that I have added into it. So in a non-financial service, for example, we are saying is a fruit delivery app. There, if I have embedded a financial service, for example, a credit card, I am embedded, or a loan facilities embedded in a food delivery app or any retail app, then we will call it as a embedded learning. So it has disrupted traditional lending models because traditional lending models were only financial to financial. But here a non-financial company is embedding a financial service into it. Why it is, it's so popular these days? Because it's a win-win situation for lenders, business and customers. So it offers a more convenient and data-driven lending experience for the customers. Now, examples of embedded learning is, for example, Amazon Pay Later, BNPL at checkout, one form of embedded learning. That is, Amazon is a non-financial app, but it has Amazon Pay into it, which offers you a BNPL. Ola Money Postpaid, that is in Ola app, which is a mobility app, a ride-hailing app. In this, you have a Ola Money Postpaid option, in which wallet you can that digital wallet you can add money, and then you can not only use it for paying for your rides, but also for food and paying for fuel. So integrated across all the services. Flipkart Pay Later plus SME seller loans. So both consumer and business lending is offered through it. So these are some of the examples of embedded learning. Now, as we understood that how the BNPL works, now let us have a look at how embedded lending works. Now, for example, customer interacts with the platform. I have given some examples of some platforms here. Platform offers instant credit or BNPL option at the checkout. Underwriting is done in the background using digital data. For example, transaction history, payments, usage pattern, alternative data is used. Loan is funded either by the platform itself, that is direct lending model, or maybe a co-lending, that is through a partner bank or NBFC. When the loan is approved, customer repays it via EMI, UPI autopay or direct debit. The fourth form of digital lending, which is getting very popular, is crowdfunding. Now, crowdfunding is solicitation of funds from multiple investors through a web-based platform or social networking site for a specific project, business venture, or a social cause. That is, a crowd is funding a particular cause, and this cause can be a specific project, it may be a business venture, or it may be a social cause. Now, how crowd is funding? Crowd means number of people. A group of people is funding. This funding is raised through a web-based platform or any social networking site. It is opposite of traditional financing method, where a project or a business raises fund from a small or select group of individuals or institutions. So, unlike a traditional funding model, where a syndicate comes together, small group of investors come together, and then they finance a particular project or business. Here, many people come together. Sometimes they don't know each other also, but they fund the business. Now, crowdfunding is a very innovative way, particularly for startups, to raise funds that need to launch themselves and grow their businesses. Now, let us have a look at the types of crowdfunding. Crowdfunding can be donation-based, reward-based, equity-based, or peer-to-peer. Donation-based They can be reward based, they can be equity based, or they can be peer to peer. So what is a donation based crowdfunding? As the name indicates, here the funders means people who are giving the money or investing the money or lending the money, do not receive any consideration except in some cases non-material benefits such as public acknowledgement is done. For example, for a particular cause, a social cause, some funds are needed. Then if a crowdfunding is done, the funders are not going to get any consideration. They are not going to get anything back in return. In some cases, some public acknowledgement may be done. Such a case is called as a donation-based crowdfunding. That is, they are donating this for that particular cause, but they are not going to get any remuneration, consideration in lieu of it. This form of crowdfunding is particularly suitable for social and non-profit projects. So, social causes, as I mentioned, are non-profit projects which need money, so they can go for donation-based crowdfunding. For example, in US, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, etc., some of the platforms that support donation-based crowdfunding. The next type of crowdfunding is reward-based crowdfunding. As the name is indicating, here the funders receive non-financial consideration. Some reward is given, but that is not in terms of money. So here the funders who are coming together to fund this particular cause or business, the funders receive some non-financial consideration such as existing or future consumer product or any membership reward schemes. That is, if you fund this particular business venture, I will not be giving you any financial return, but I may give you membership in this project, or I may give you some future consumer product which I am going to deliver by this funding. So that is a consideration which is paid, or something is paid in lieu of the funding which you are making, but it is generally non-financial. The next type of crowdfunding is equity-based crowdfunding. As the name is indicating, here the crowd means the funders, aims to receive a return on investment based on the project success. So that is, all of us are contributing to that lending through this crowdfunding, but I am expecting that after the project succeeds, you will pay me something back, sometimes in terms of shares also. And then the last type of crowdfunding is peer-to-peer funding, where the funders issue a loan at an agreed interest rate over a fixed term, with or without security, or via an invoice finance-like structure as opposed to vanilla loans. That is, in this crowdfunding, the funders are saying that we are giving you a loan. This is the rate of interest you pay me over this fixed term. I may be asking you for some security. I may not be asking you for a certain security. So this is done either through a invoice-like finance-like structure, but it is not a plain vanilla loan where no rate of interest is charged. So you are giving loan, the crowd is giving loan for that business venture for a fixed period of time and with fixed rate of interest. Now, what are the advantages of crowdfunding? Why do people go for crowdfunding? One is, of course, access to capital. A large number of people in small contribution are willing to fund your project. A very, very important advantage of crowdfunding, particularly for startups, is the market validation. Why? Because you are putting across your idea to so many people and telling them that this is what I want to do. And if you are getting a good funding, this means that somebody is validating, the market is validating that your idea will work. Audience building. Audience building, why? Because I put my funding, I've asked for funding for my idea, for my business venture or for that cause amongst a lot of people. So, we build audience. There are people who are viewing my business venture. People, even if they don't fund, but they know that someone with this business exists. So that word of mouth publicity comes when we talk about crowdfunding. So that audience building is there. Feedback and insights. It's so many times crowdfunding is not only for the sake of lending. Even though you are getting money, but these people who are going to lend you money will also give you feedback, and they will also give you insights into what do they think about the business for which you are raising finance. Then there are partnership and networking opportunities also through this crowdfunding. If, for example, you are doing a equity-based funding, people will be willing to be a part of your venture. So you get to collaborate, you get to network with people. So that are the advantages of crowdfunding. Now, let me do a small case study of a startup, Fibe, which is into digital lending in India. This is a startup which is based in Pune in India. It was founded in 2015 by Mr. Akshay Mehrotra and Mr. Ashish Goyal. It is into digital lending. It was the target audience is the young salaried professionals in India who are often overlooked by the traditional banks. The core mission of this fintech startup, digital lending, is to provide instant, hassle-free credit for short-term financial needs through a mobile-first platform. So their focus is only on giving digital lending. So they provide instant, hassle-free credit for short-term financial needs through a mobile-first platform. So this is the logo of Fibe. Now, what model do they follow? They have an instant collateral-free loan model wherein Fibe's core products are personal loans and buy now, pay later services, and they're all processed digitally. They have a very technology-driven underwriting where they use proprietary, they have their own algorithm which they have made on their in-house developed algorithm. It's a machine learning algorithm which they use to assess the credit worthiness of the person who's asking for this loan, and that is done in minutes. This enables faster loan approval as well as disbursement. This startup focuses on a user-centric experience, and the entire process of digital lending is done on a user-friendly app from making application to disbursement so that the customer has a seamless and convenient customer journey. What are the key success factors? Because Fibe is thinking of listing themselves in the stock market by bringing an initial public offering of their shares. What are the key success factors? The first is that they are solving a very specific problem. They have addressed the unmet needs for quick credit among the growing digitally savvy Indian youth. Not only this, they have very strategic partnership collaborations with major banks like Axis Banks for numberless credit card and healthcare providers. Recently, a Bombay-based dentistry firm has tied up with Fibe to give people loans who are coming for dental treatments, because we know dental treatments are not covered under health insurance. So, high-end dental treatments, before that, people can take loans directly from Fibe. So they are tying up also with the healthcare providers to expand their reach and product offerings. Another very important success factor is the trust and credibility which this fintech has. It is a registered NBFC with RBI, and Fibe operates with transparency and trust, setting it apart from the unregulated competitors. If you go to their website, they have also listed the names of those fintech lending apps which are fake. So they are building trust and credibility not only amongst the borrowers, they are also building the trust and credibility amongst the regulatory bodies because they are registered with Reserve Bank of India. So what have we done till now? Let me do a quick recap. We have talked about the 4 major digital lending products, that is P2P lending, pay later loans, embedded finance, and crowdfunding. We also understood that P2P and BNP are getting a lot of attention from both sellers and customers. Each model have their own set of advantages and gray areas. We also did a small case study of Fibe, which is a digital lending platform based out of India. And then how it is succeeding amongst for trust, not only gaining the trust and credibility amongst the regulatory bodies, but also have found the gap in the unmet needs of the young people, salaried persons who are willing to take loans, who are also overlooked by the traditional financial institutions. So I hope you have enjoyed this lecture. Happy learning and take care.